We're live. We're live. We're live. It's gonna pop up in a minute. Let's see. Okay, it says Shanae Urquhart is live right now. Can y'all see that?
I cannot.
Yep, I see it.
Okay, Mark, if you can't see it, just go to my page and you should be able to see the video. We got 19 people, 29 people, 46 people, 52 people, 67 people, 68 people. Hey y'all, hey Jaden. 86 people, 89 people. Hey y'all, hey. Hey Annette. Hey y'all, hey. So y'all already know when we do these lives, just understand that I am not being rude. I have multiple screens here so I can talk to y'all and talk to my panelists at the same time. So please let us know, say hey, let us know where you are checking in from. We're going to have a really, really fun time, really cool discussion from different recruiters from all areas of all industries. So this is not specific to tech. I'm going to start with that. This is not specific to tech. For people who don't know how to say specific, because I know people who don't, this is not specific to tech, okay? So we have recruiters who have experience in the higher education space. That will be me, the healthcare space, and as well as the tech space. So please understand that we're here to answer all of your questions from a recruiter's perspective, not geared toward a specific industry. If you want to ask certain questions for tech, for example, or for healthcare, for example, we will answer those. But we don't want you all to feel limited to think that this is just for tech, because it is not. So we added Miriam. Hey Miriam.
Hey.
Okay, so first I want to start by introducing all of the panelists, and then we will get right into the questions. Y'all, please keep in mind real quick that we do have some pre-submitted questions, but we are going to answer your questions in the chat. When one person is not talking, all of us will be in the chat answering your questions. So please keep in mind that you are welcome to ask questions as we are talking. So y'all are checking in from California and Texas and Maryland. I saw Raleigh and Durham. Okay, Aisha, they in the area. I saw Alabama and Jersey and Mississippi. I love it. Okay, so I want to start with actually Aisha. So Aisha, please tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aisha, and I am a healthcare recruiter. I've been in HR for, I would say, since 2013. Started off as an HR coordinator. Then I went to, I finished with my master's degree. And then I relocated to Raleigh, North Carolina as a recruiter. So here I am.
I love it. Thank you. Go ahead, Mark.
So my name is Mark. This is my 20th year as a recruiter. I kind of backed into this. I was in banking and finance, and I had a client who was a small law firm. I had a client who was a lawyer. I introduced them to each other. One of the partners in the law firm said, "Do you know how much it would have cost us to hire him through a recruiter?" And a career was born. I've recruited and placed attorneys, accountants, engineers. I'm currently in healthcare doing retained search for leaders in the senior living community.
Love it. Thank you. Go ahead, Miriam.
Hey, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thanks for having me. So I am a rare Atlanta native. I've spent my entire 11-year career in recruiting, supporting different industries with a focus on diversity and technical recruitment. So excited to be here and help answer these questions.
Love it. Last but not least, Nishika, go.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nishika. I am a tech recruiter. I have been in staffing and recruiting the last 10 plus years. I have staffed a lot of different industries, but right now I'm actually in tech. I'm also here in North Carolina.
Love it. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, like last, I'm Shanae Erker. Y'all already know I am the hashtag recruiter cousin. I have been in recruiting now for this month makes it 4 years. So I started in higher education and then pivoted over into healthcare, and now I'm pivoting like a fourth time at this point into tech. So I'm excited to answer some of our questions along with my fellow panelists, and let's get started. So Mark and Aisha, I am going to come to you first. First question submitted was how to be and sound confident when going into an interview, whether it's a phone screen or meeting the team. Mark, I'll let you go first.
Uh, So I know this is going to sound like one of those things that's a cliche, but I can't stress enough that sounding confident really is about practicing and preparing. If you have friends, if you have a roommate, if you have a significant other, if you have to go to the park and find somebody walking their dog, practicing can really make a huge difference. You're prepared, you're not going to get taken by surprise, and that makes you more comfortable. And being more comfortable is a great way to see confidence. Here's another thing, and most people don't do: ask questions in the interview as they come up, because the people you're speaking with are going to be able to tell an awful lot about how much you know in terms of the subject matter and how things work by the context of your questions. So if you hold all these questions till the end, they sound like you had them written down somewhere and you're just picking off a list. But if you ask them in conversation as it comes up, it changes from a question and answer grilling session into a real conversation. And you will actually get more comfortable because you're actually talking to people. And that can be huge. It also, by the way, helps them feel more comfortable with you because you're asking the right question at the right time.
Love that. Thank you. Go ahead, Aisha.
Yes, and just to piggyback off of Mark, I would also say have your salary expectations handy and ready so that when the question is asked, you are able to say a definitive salary response. I think that is very important because people say, oh, I don't know, I'm negotiable. But as recruiters, we want to know what that means. We want to know what your worth is. What do you feel like you're worth? So I think that's very important. Some people fail to understand that when you are on an interview, whether it's virtually or in person, you should always be dressed professionally at all times, regardless. Another thing, Mark said, prepare questions. And something that someone told me a while ago is when you're on an interview, smile. There's nothing better to open up your virtual interview and to see a person smiling. So I always smile when I'm doing interviews.
I love that because it makes it seem like I've also kind of logged into interviews and the person looked terrified.
Yeah.
And when they look terrified, it's like, oh, what is this about to be? Like I wasn't the interviewer, but I was the HR person sitting in on the interview, and
Mhm.
I've literally been wanting to tell, like, oh, I'll give the candidate signals like smile, do something, like don't look like a crazy person.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
definitely that smiling part is really big, although it may seem like it's a small thing, it is extremely big.
It
Miriam,
is.
I'm coming to you. Why is ghosting a thing with recruiters? This is going to be a real good conversation.
Yes, it is. So, one, I want to start by saying ghosting is never okay. It's never okay to do it. And I know it happens all the time. So, I'm going to give some context as to why it occurs. The first reason is some companies, they require all the interviews to be completed and an offer to be given out, accepted. Sometimes a person needs to be hired before going back and notifying everyone who interviewed that they were not selected. So sometimes that can take 30, 60, 90 days, even longer. So that is one thing that I've picked on in my experience. Um, in this market that we're in, I we typically get 200, 300, or 400 applicants each day when we post a job. And this is for all the recruiters I've been speaking to. And it can be difficult to get back to some of those candidates. Sometimes recruiters forget because recruiters do a lot. We're screening people, we're managing our hiring managers. We have to go through the job descriptions, we have to post the job, we have to go through every single day, review lots of resumes, which kind of goes into another question. We're also doing different projects on the side. There's a lot that goes into recruiting. So sometimes recruiters do forget. And I've also noticed some recruiters just never get back because I hate to say this, but some recruiters maybe they don't care. And that's not something that should be common within recruiting. I do my best to get back to everyone regardless of how long it takes and if there's an update or not. And so the last piece was some people not caring. And I think that's a very small percentage. Unfortunately, that's the reality of it. But for the most part, I think a lot of the ghosting is because of different policies about interviewing everyone and making sure we go through all the applicants before reaching out. Sometimes people do forget because again, recruiters are doing a lot. We're not just screening and submitting resumes. There's so much that goes on in our daily work. So I hope this provides some clarity, and I'd love to hear what everyone else has to add to this.
Yeah, I want to add to that. So what I've also learned too is, and Aisha, I got you. What I've also learned too is that sometimes recruiters make mistakes. So there are times when we'll think we found an amazing candidate, because I've done it, where Nashika, we found like an amazing candidate, right? And we think this candidate is like the ideal candidate for the hiring manager. We go to the hiring manager and we'll try to share the candidate with the hiring manager, but then the hiring manager goes, "Oh, that's totally opposite of what I'm looking for." Although we thought this person was very much ideal for this particular role. I've made that mistake where I've gotten the candidate hype, and then the hiring manager does not want to move forward, and I go, "Oh crap! Well, what do I say to the candidate now?" So now the recruiter that I'm going to go, "Well, unfortunately, the hiring manager decided that they wanted to move forward with other candidates." I don't have. Sometimes the question is, well, what was I lacking? And I don't always have an answer to that, right? Because hiring managers don't always explain it to us either. So we don't always have that specific information on what you may be lacking on your resume or within your experience that you outline if the hiring manager doesn't tell us what he or she might have been looking for specifically, if we might have missed it. You have recruiters, on the other hand, who don't know how to say we were wrong. And so the easier way to do it is to not say anything and move on, and leave you with something like, I guess, your hope they're holding on to, which is not a good thing, like Miriam said. And then they also comes with the idea that recruiters can come across as if I'm the recruiter, I'm not the candidate, so I don't really have to if I don't want to. Not a good attitude to have. That's not all of us, which is why we do this, because there are candidates recruiters who actually do care. Go ahead, Aisha.
So I just wanted to add also some things that I see a lot. If you're the candidate and a recruiter is reaching out to you for your interview availability, please respond back to the recruiters as if you're responding back to the hiring manager. And if the recruiter is asking you for your availability, provide at least 2 to 3 options. And I say this to say that is an easy way to get ghosted, because like Miriam said, we have so many moving parts. And if we have a candidate that's only responding, I can interview on April 24th at 11. Like, if that is a good way to get ghosted. I know it's not nice or it's not, practice, but please add and give us options so that if we can't do that particular time, we can go back and we could move things around.
Go ahead, Nashika.
Well, you kind of took it for me. I was just going to say sometimes it's not always on us recruiters. It's the hiring managers, and they just determine, listen, this is not the candidate for me, and you just feel like, oh my gosh, I got to let this person down, you know. And I have no problem with reaching out and letting them know, listen, you know, this is you don't have the skills that they're looking for, but I will keep you in my pipeline for other positions when they do come up. Because I never want anybody to feel like they've been ghosted. Because I don't want to feel like I've been ghosted. So you have to, as a recruiter, you have to treat candidates the way you would like to be treated. Yes, we get busy. Yes, we have 10 million trillion things that we have to do every single day. But you have to remember that's a person just like you. So you don't want to feel that way. You don't want to feel like somebody ghosted you or forgot all about you. I have candidates who come back to me from a year ago. Hey, Nashika, you got anything yet? Yes. You know, you have to keep that relationship going because you never know. That might be the perfect candidate for a position 6 months down the line. You're like, oh, and you still have that relationship with them and they're ready and willing to come to that position or come interview or, just still communicate with you at all, because when you ghost people, they don't want to communicate with you ever again.
Right. And it makes the rest of us look bad, and then we have to deal with that candidate trauma of, well, I'm hoping that this next recruiter, responds because other recruiters didn't like. So it's not all of us. It happens, and we do apologize for the people that it happened to. I've been ghosted before too, so it definitely happens. So Nashika, I want to stick with you. What is the recommended way of telling a recruiter I'm leaving my current job because I hate it, or what I was hired for isn't what I'm exactly doing and the salary doesn't match? So how do you say that in a professional way?
So in a professional way, you do want to be professional. You don't want to defame your current company. We don't want to burn bridges or anything like that. You just let them know, my current company is just, it hasn't been giving me what I need. You can break it down and tell them exactly what's going on, depending on, what's going on, if it's, outside of HR issues. But, you can just let them know the values and the goals and things that I have for myself. The current company is not meeting that for me. So I want to transition into a company that has the core values and, the goals that I approve for my professional growth. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Not every organization is going to be perfect. There are no perfect organizations. Let's just say that. So you have to make sure that you get into the organization that it fits you, that's good for you.
I love that. Go ahead, Mark.
So I have a little bit different perspective on this because I'm in an agency and because I tend to work with more senior level executives. But throughout my career, I've worked with people who were on their way up to those levels. And one of the things that I always liked, why do you want to leave where you are? And it was always about opportunity. So if you can phrase that explanation as, here were the things that I really wanted to get to do, and I'm not doing them. And to get where I want to go, I need a role where I can do more of these things. That is, you're still saying, look, they're not letting me do any of the stuff they hired me for. But you're saying it in a way that makes it sound like this is how you're getting ready for that next step in your career. And at least on an agency side, we love that.
I love that perspective. Thank you so much. Mark, I want to stick with you. Excuse me. Do recruiters really advocate for prospective employees when it comes to getting a competitive salary? It seems like most recruiters try to lowball you from the start.
Okay, well, this one's easy. And the answer, at least if you're working with an agency, is hell yes. We get paid a percentage of your first year salary. So the more money you make, the more money I make. Now, I've got a great relationship with my clients. I know where their budget is. I know where their pain points are. So I'm going to use this to get you the most that I can without breaking the bank, because I want them to call me next time they need somebody. But you better believe I'm going to try to get you everything I can. And sometimes that might not be money. It may be, all right, they really wanted to be here, but can I get them an extra week of vacation? Can I get them some of these other things that the candidate told me were important to them? So I'm going to advocate to get you the best package I can get you, even if it's, so I'm going to push their budget right to the top. And now what else can I get? Well, let's get some extra vacation time. Let's get maybe some tuition reimbursement or some of the other things that are important to you.
Love that. Aisha.
I have to agree with Mark. Absolutely. I think sometimes I get in trouble for, going back and forth with HR, about salaries. But I always tell my candidates, I am your advocate. So if you tell me you want to counter offer, or if you feel like this salary is not what you should be getting, then you tell me and I go back and I advocate that for you. And I go hard for my candidates as hard as I can. So yes.
Go ahead, Nishika.
So I'm gonna say just like Aisha, I go hard for my candidates. Like they know, like Nishika got my back. So initially in the beginning interview that I have with them, I'm gonna ask them, what do you need? What do you want? Like I need this number. Don't switch it up on me later. Give me this number and let me know what you need. So when I present you, in my notes, it's gonna say this person is asking for $110,000. Okay, if you can't give it to them, let me just go ahead and let them know this might not be the position for you because they can't give it to you. I'm not going to wait until you're at the end of this process and say, okay, so they said they can give you 89. Would you take that? No, I'm not doing that. That's a disservice to my candidate. So you need to tell me up front what you need so I can ask for that, or I can let them know in the beginning, this person is requiring this amount. So if you can't give this person this amount, there's no need to move them forward in the process.
You know what's funny you say that, because I have gotten in trouble by like managers I worked under because I have gone so hard for the candidate for as much money as possible. Like I've gotten my hand slapped and like Shanae, you're doing too much. She ain't said that for real, but that's how I took it. It was more or less like, girl, this salary don't really make sense. And I was trying so hard to get this candidate hired that I went so far up that it didn't make sense. And when I looked at my number, I was like, oh crap, this really don't make sense. Let me come down a little bit more. And so I agree. Like, we're going to do our best to make sure that we're not lowballing you. Now, do y'all remember seeing that post where the girl was like, and Aisha, I know you know where I'm going. When the girl was like, the company could have offered more, but the candidate, say for argument for now, the candidate asked for $65,000. The company had a budget for $85,000, and the recruiter posted the whole scenario and said, it's not my job as a recruiter to tell you how much money you should be asking for. Although I could have offered her $20,000 more, we offer her what she asked. And all of us as recruiters came after her because we were like, why would you do that to that candidate? Like, you making us look bad, dog.
Right.
Like, why would you do that? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Any more comments on that? Any more comments on that? Because they really don't want to feel like they're being lowballed.
Yeah.
Well, and also that's one thing. Whenever you do, like, a candidate will ask you, "What's the salary range?" Like, I will honestly tell them, "This is the budget. This is what they said they can do, anywhere from 85 to 110. I don't know where you might fall between that, but I'm going to tell you this is the range. So if you making 65 now and you want 65, no, we gonna say you want 85 because that's where they're starting at. I got your back. I'm gonna make sure you get your coins, like, regardless."
That's right.
If the candidate tells me that their salary expectation is like really low, I'm like, I would literally go,
Yes, every day. I do it every day.
Right.
Every day.
I agree.
But they've been so used to just accepting, okay, listen, I got this job for 65K. You want it or not? No. I need 75, 85. What you're going to do. You know what I mean? So we we have so many jobs within our one job. We have to advocate for people. We have to encourage people. We have so many things that we have to do in this one role of being a recruiter. And sometimes we do get a bad rep, but you have to understand we are fighting for y'all behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, you might not know it, but we are like, please, okay, listen, this is a great candidate. They need this or they want this. Like, so I hate when we get that bad rep that we don't care or we don't, we're not doing our
Yes.
job and things like that. So yeah.
So I
And
wanted to hold on one second, Aisha. I wanted to put this on the screen because this is really important because candidates do feel like this. They wish that they could understand what the salary range is for most, if not all, of the jobs that they're applying for. Now, at this point, the reason why you know the salary range is because in certain states, the law requires that we now post a salary range, and that is, law of, it's not, it's public, it's very much not private. So now you see the salary ranges for certain jobs because the law in that specific state says that you need to actually post a salary range. But the reason why I agree with this is because I've actually been in situations where I was told that I can't share the salary range, that we get to an offer and then the candidate is like, well, I wish the salary was that low before I even got to this point because I wouldn't have wasted my time. I agree. And granted, you come down on the recruiter, which I'm gonna have to take that because I'm the person who you're talking to. But I agree with you. So 100%. Go ahead, Aisha.
no, I was just gonna say a lot of times candidates say, well, I don't know what my salary expectation is, and I don't want to lowball myself, and then you don't call me back. And I always tell like candidates, you're speaking to the recruiter. You tell me what you're looking for so that we can hash it out. I can let based off of your experience, if this is the right position. But I tell candidates all the time, do not say you don't want to reveal what your salary expectation is because you feel like you might not be you might not move forward in the process.
Go ahead, Miriam.
Hey, these are all great points. Yes, we as recruiters, we always try to advocate as much as we can. And there are a lot of factors that come into play. One thing that I've noticed consistently, like throughout my career, was some companies will look at someone who brings in 3 years of experience and say, "Hey, should they get paid the same amount as someone who brings 15 years of experience?" There's a lot of factors. Are they doing the same job? Is someone knows more with certain technologies? Like, I want to understand more about that. And then that's why it's important to really highlight everything that you bring to the table. Really talk about all the projects you've done, all those certifications you have and technologies. That way we know what you're bringing to the table and we can continue to advocate for you. I try to always get some number for my candidates, and I tell them, or I always tell people like, hey, you always have a number in your head. There's that sweet spot that you're looking for. Just add 20% to it. And that's a good number for you to start from. And then in some cases, some companies do have really strict budgets. Years ago, when I used to recruit for another company, this was years ago, and I won't say who it was, but this company had a very strict budget. In fact, anytime they had a backfill, they would subtract $10,000 from that salary and then post it. So in some cases, there are really strict budgets, but we as recruiters do what we can to ensure that you're getting the most out of your compensation package.
Sorry, I was drinking water. Go ahead, Mark.
And we talked about it a little bit earlier in the fact that recruiters do an awful lot of things. And by the way, I tried being an in-house recruiter for about 18 months. I couldn't hack it. I had to go back to agency life because those guys do insane amounts of work. If you tell us when we ask, where do you need to be for salary? And you give us a number that just isn't reasonable, we'll tell you. We'll do it gently. We're not going to laugh at you, but we'll tell you, in this market, that's kind of out of whack. Here's probably where you could be. Are you okay with that? Even if the company won't let us give a salary range, we can still have that conversation with you. And keep in mind, when we're doing this, we want to get you the most we can, but we have to be honest with you. And if the amount that you're targeting just isn't going to happen I'm in Columbus, Ohio. So we don't have the highest pay rates on the planet. Those are on either coast. And a lot of times people will say, well, I really want this much money. Okay, in Columbus, that job pays about 20 grand less. And unless you want to relocate, I can't help you. But at least I'll let you know. And then it's your decision. It's never going to be mine whether you want to proceed as a candidate.
Mark, I'm about to put a comment on the screen. This was specific to you, which I thought it was a really good question. So the question for Mark, at the executive level, is the salary negotiation game any different?
It's really not. You might be adding a zero, but it's what it always comes down to. And this is no matter where you are in your career, companies and a couple other people mentioned this, they have budgets. And so they have an idea in mind. Here's what this role is worth to our company. And that's true whether you are an entry level accountant or the CFO. This is what the role is worth. And there's a range, and there's a range for a reason. Somebody who ticks more boxes, checks more boxes, will be higher up in the range. Somebody who's just first ready to move into that level role, maybe a manager for the first time, they're not checking a lot of those boxes. They're going to be at the bottom of the range. But that's what that role is worth to the company. And where you end up is all about how many boxes you check and the value that you bring. And that's true at any level. It just kind of comes with bigger numbers when you're talking about executive level, C-suite kind of people.
Love that. Thank you. I'm definitely for adding a zero. I don't know if y'all are, but I'm definitely for adding a zero. I saw another question because it's taking me into um kind of a career pivot question. So Raquel asked, when do recruiters give someone a chance in an industry they are newly coming into? So similar to a career pivot. I'll start and then anybody else can chime in. So it is not the recruiter's responsibility to give you a chance. It is the hiring manager's responsibility to give you a chance. The recruiter, like Aisha said before, is your advocate. So we can advocate for you all day long about how you have transferable skills to come from one industry to another. If we even get you in front of a hiring manager and that hiring manager then decides to interview you, you have to then show up and show off. Like at that point, you have to perform, right? So I see a lot of statuses about or posts about how people have made us in the interview and they didn't get the job for multiple reasons. And so I started to wonder why that was. And when I started to kind of see how people were interviewing, I started to understand, oh, this is because you're not explaining a certain example this way, or you're not actually answering the question that the interviewer asked. And so there is an art to being able to do a career pivot. It's not just about getting the recruiter on your side. You have to also convince the hiring manager that if you don't have experience in this specific industry and you are competing with people who do, why should the hiring manager choose you who doesn't have that specific direct industry experience that they're looking for in their industry versus somebody who already has that industry experience that they're looking for? It takes quite a bit of practice, like Mark said before. It takes quite a bit practice to sell yourself in that way, but it's not the recruiter's job to give you the chance. It's us to go to the hiring manager, present your skill set. After you share your skill set, not just on your resume, but tell us a little bit about yourself, your hunger, your drive, why you want to go into that career field. And then we then go to the hiring manager on your behalf to be your voice. We then have to convince them to take a chance on you. And then after we convince them, it's up to you now to convince them that you are also, you should also be taking a chance on. Anybody else? No one, no one. Okay, next question. Okay, so Nashika, I'm coming to you. How to effectively search via LinkedIn and other job posting sites when you are looking for a job?
So from the candidate side, I'm just going to say, make sure, I always tell people this, make sure you're not just applying for a job because you're desperate for a job. Like, don't just apply for anything, because what's going to happen is you're going to be doing the same search in another 3 to 6 months. So make sure, go ahead and research that company. Just figure out, is this, do I want to work for this company? Is this a company that has, values, what I'm looking for, salary, things that everything I'm looking for, does this company have that? Then apply. And if you're doing it on LinkedIn, make sure you have a professional photo on LinkedIn. Please, I don't want to see you in your car. I want to see you skating board, and I don't want to see all of that. A nice professional photo. Make sure you have that. Make sure your skills are on your profile. Make sure you follow some of the companies that you're interested in working for. I would also say join some groups that are connected to the career that you're looking for. So if you're looking for tech, join some tech groups. If you're looking for healthcare, join some healthcare groups, because networking with those people, when I tell you, networking can get you things that you normally wouldn't be able to get. Knowing somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody can get you in a door. So make sure you guys network whenever you're looking for a job. And another thing, on people's LinkedIn accounts, sometimes I don't know if other recruiters look at this, but I look at those recommendations, because those recommendations to
I do
me,
too.
those are real life people who have worked with you, who have took the time to say, oh, she is great at this, or she can do this, or she can do that. Those are real live testimonials. So I know nobody's lying and saying, oh, yes, she can do this. So I'm looking at that as well. So, just make sure that your profile is, up to par. And if you're on other sites, let's say like your Monster, Indeed, things like that, and sometimes you have to cater your resume to a specific job. So let's say if there is a job doing HR. Now, technically, you might not have a whole lot of HR experience, but you've trained people, you've done, you've managed people, you've done all of these things. You're going to take some of those words from that actual posting, and you're going to edit your resume to mirror what they're looking for. Because some
So,
people,
I'm sorry. I thought you were
go
done.
ahead, go ahead. Go ahead, Shanae.
I'm sorry, you stopped, you paused. I was like, oh, that's a period. So I wanted to comment on what you said about networking and knowing someone of someone of someone. That's how I became a recruiter, y'all. So my husband passed my resume to someone who passed my resume to a temp recruiter who passed my resume to another temp recruiter who called me. That is literally how I became, like how I started as a temp and then worked my way to becoming a recruiter. So that is 100% true. I also want to give y'all a quick tidbit on how you can use LinkedIn, Bing, Google, whatever search engine you want to use, how you can use those search engines to make yourself a little bit more organized when you're job searching. I'm about to give y'all so many tips and tricks, so please take notes as I do this. Okay, so you take a parent company, right? Research a parent company. No matter what that parent company is, research the parent company. If you find positions in your skill set with that parent company, apply to the parent company, right? Now, what you do is you research all of the child companies or the subsidiaries under that parent company. You take each company and you find roles that fit your skill set and you apply to those companies as well. Never leave the parent company, because that's probably where you want to work anyway. But you want to start working your way down to some of their child companies that may be hiring under that parent company as well. And then what you also do is what I call cousin companies. So you want to reach outward. I love saying cousin companies. It's so fun. So you want to find what I call cousin companies, i.e. partnerships, right? So those child companies, the parent company, they all have partnerships with other companies that are part of the company that you may want to work for. You find those partnership companies, you find the skill set that they may be looking for, and you apply to those roles as well. Eventually, you'll work your way down to startups and all kinds of things of companies that you didn't even know existed. So I am a fan of starting from the top and work your way down. Do not start from the bottom. Now we're here. So we're going to start from the very top, and then we're going to work our way down. So then that way it helps you stay organized. Now that's going to take a lot of research and a lot of patience, but it's going to help you stay organized throughout the process. Once you finish with that one parent company, because you found all them companies that fall under that, you go to the next parent company and you do the same process all over again. So it'll help you understand what companies may be hiring for your skill set, and it may help you understand what companies even exist that you didn't even know was even in existence. And I find a lot of like California-based companies, New York-based companies. I found a couple of Alabama-based companies, North Carolina-based companies that I didn't even know existed until I started doing just literally clicking and started doing research. So that may also be very helpful to you. Okay, next question. What transferable skills would you guys recommend? And it's for anybody. What transferable skills would you guys recommend senior program or project managers focus on when reshaping their resumes and or in the interview process? So specifically someone who has experience on the business side and not the technology side, but they may want to go over into the technology side. Anything on that? Nishika, since you prepare for all of them, you might as well.
That was not one of my questions.
I can provide some tips.
Please do.
So they're wanting to know what transferable skills to add to their resume or profile for program management and product management roles on the non-technical side.
Yep.
So one thing that I've seen a lot is collaboration, because in both of those roles, you're going to collaborate with different departments and teams to ensure that something's being completed. So showing that you've worked with different teams, showing that you've managed different timelines and budgets, because each program and project and product is always going to have a budget as well as a timeline. So if you're able to show that you've done something like that in your resume, and then leading these programs or products, showing how you've done it, showing like the timeline from the beginning to the end, showing how you led the budget, managed it, and made sure that everyone was in line with it. And then also showing those collaboration skills. I would also add leadership, because you're going to be leading people and projects, like leading marketing and other non-technical teams. Those are the top skills that I think of when it's a non-technical role. And there's probably a couple of more that I forgot.
Love that. I want to put really quickly. Go ahead, Nishika.
I was just going to chime in a little bit off of what Marion said. And when it comes to like any project management, things like that, every now and then, I love to see on resumes where people will add projects that they've worked on. You don't want your resume to be too long. I tell candidates all the time, after about 2 pages, I don't know, I've self-diagnosed myself with ADD. After about page 2.5, I zone out. So if you want to put like a little section where it says, a project that you've completed successfully, and I always put numbers in your resume. People don't realize that this makes a difference. I've been able to increase productivity by 75%. I've been able to increase sales by 90%. I always put those numbers in there so that they can understand, okay, she's about her business. She knows that she was able to increase something. So that's all I wanted to throw in there real fast.
I love that. I'm putting a question up really quick that I thought was really cool for us to talk through. How are you all able to find us on LinkedIn in a sea of applicants? Anyone is welcome to answer this.
I'll go first. I'll go first on that one. When I do my LinkedIn search, I'm looking for skills. I'm looking for keywords also. So let's say if I'm looking for someone with some engineering experience or networking or collaboration, or I'm putting in those keywords in my search, and you're going to pop up in my LinkedIn search. I mean,
anybody else?
Yeah, Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm the same. Typically use keyword searches. Sometimes I'll use a title search, and then if we're doing more of an extensive search in LinkedIn Recruiter, we'll add some keywords, and we have the opportunity to use Boolean search strings to pull up technologies and different things that we're looking for. A lot of it's really going to be keywords. So make sure that you're adding all those tools that you have worked with, all the languages that you can code. Every little keyword really does matter and will pop up in our searches.
Go ahead, Mark.
This is important for people who don't want to do tech too, because I don't do any tech recruiting whatsoever. Hopefully never will. It baffles me. But I still do, it's weird. I do Boolean searches because I want to get very, very specific. Clients are paying me up front to find them specific skill sets. And so I will do these long, ugly looking strings to make sure I get all of the stuff that these clients are asking for. So the more of those you have on your profile, the more of those you have listed as things that you've done at different jobs that you've had, the greater the likelihood that you're going to show up on a search that I do.
I love that. I want to put up another one because I think this is like a really controversial point. So I want to start with this one. So, do recruiters appreciate headshots? I do not. So it's a no for me.
No, for
Um,
me,
It's
it's
a no
it's
for me.
it's a no. I'm gonna keep it
no.
professional. I would normally say something else if I was on IG or Facebook, but it's a no for me. And the reason why it's a no for all of us is because it creates unconscious bias. So if I put my headshot on my resume, if Miriam then puts her headshot, if Mark, Nashika, Aisha, if we all put our headshots on our resume, the company would go with it, like the mind will literally go right to what that person looks like and pay attention to what we look like versus what our skill set is. So if you have pictures on your resumes, please take them off. Part of that is because we want to make sure we are evaluating you on your skill set alone and not what you look like. And as humans, it is easy. It is easy. We're human, right? So it's easy for us to go right back to what that person looks like, opposed to us paying attention to their skill set. So it's really important that you don't put your picture on your resume. Now, I will say in certain countries that is different, right? So in certain countries, you will see that there are certain types of people will have headshots on their resume. If that's okay in that country, that's why they have it. In the US, it is not a good practice to put your picture on your resume. I have seen bathroom selfies. I have seen shower curtains as backgrounds and stuff. I have seen all types of things. I have even seen, so Aisha and I used to work. Well, Aisha still works there. I used to work for the same employer Aisha currently works for. And when we use this platform called Modern Hire. And with Modern Hire, we used to send out what I used to do because I used to do patient transport and I used to do like a lot of the PSAs. So the people who come and check you in when you go to urgent care or primary care. And so when I used to do those videos, I used to send video links out for people to do their screening videos so that I can see, not because of I need to see the video, like what they look like, but because I needed them to answer the question. It was just easier to get through so many people that I needed to get through. When they use that video feature, I have seen people do screenings with babies on their backs, laying in the bed. I have seen pajamas. I literally saw someone cuss the video software out because they didn't know how to use it. And it was for a leadership position. I have heard F bombs. I've heard all types of things, right? So the reason why certain things are just not appreciated is because we don't want to then grow a certain bias toward you regardless of what your skill set is. Now, video, and I did want to distinguish that video versus headshot is two different things because companies do use video technology to be able to screen candidates to make it easier when you have a whole bunch of candidates at the same time. Headshots, on the other hand, is not a good thing to do on your resume. So please take it off. I don't care if it's a professional headshot. I don't care if it's a selfie. Don't put it on there. Take it off.
Yeah, Shanae is 100% right. The having a headshot in your resume really does introduce bias into the interview process. It all begins as soon as people see your picture. The second part is there are legal implications with that. I have worked at other companies where if there is a picture in the resume, legally, we're not able to look at the resume and move forward. So, as much as we love seeing your faces, to Shanae's point, don't put your headshot in your resume.
Go ahead, Nishika.
Yeah, Miriam, I'm gonna jump on that one too, because what can happen is a candidate can say they saw my resume, they saw that I was a Black female, and they decided they didn't want to move me forward. Boom, there goes the EEOC claim. No, 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 we're not doing that. Take your picture off. We don't need all of that. When we get ready to interview you, we'll see your face. It's okay.
Another question. Has anyone, and I'm doing this, y'all, because we literally went through all our questions, our pre-submitted questions. Have anyone ever come across someone pivoting from architecture or construction into tech? If yes, what transferable skills do you think would be relevant? So I have seen this before. I've seen people try to come into or successfully come from construction into tech. Some of that may be like if there is a program management or like project management role for a construction project and that's in the technical space, they'll use that role to kind of transfer into tech, which is possible, right? So if you had like a foreman or if you have someone who was on the technology side to make sure that the architecture of what you were building while you were in construction was set, and you can take those transferable skills into a project management or product or program management role in the technical side, specifically in construction. Construction actually does have a technology section to it. Actually, I don't know if y'all know this, but almost every profession has a technical piece attached to it. So definitely look at some technology sectors. Sorry, my live went away. Some technology sectors around whatever profession you're trying to transfer from. Do we see questions from LinkedIn? Let me see. Do y'all have any specific questions about like your LinkedIn profiles, how to network on LinkedIn? Do you have any questions around that? We would love to answer those. This is a good one. How do you encounter or counter unconscious bias with our LinkedIn photo? Anybody?
I'll take this one. Because somebody had asked earlier in the chat too, is it okay to put a photo on LinkedIn? Everybody starts their searches, whether you're an internal recruiter, whether you're an agency recruiter, by sitting down and putting in a list of things that we need this candidate to have. The skills, the keywords, all of the different software, whatever it is we're looking for. Once we get that list, especially when you're dealing with an agency and maybe it's an executive recruiter, I'm not getting all that many hits. I'll do a search. I'll do all of LinkedIn. And okay, I restrict it by geography usually, but I'm not getting a huge amount of results. I may get 130 people. Well, I've got to weed through these, find just the ones who want a new job, just the ones who will work for the money my client wants to pay, just the ones who, so I don't have that big a pool to draw from. I don't care what you look like. And I've already narrowed it down to that small number before I ever see a picture, before I ever pull up a profile. I'm just looking essentially at a list of names. So right off the bat, I've got people that I know, these are people that on paper can do the job. So after that, it's how many can I get in front of my client and how soon can they start work?
Here's how I see LinkedIn being a little different than in terms of having a picture than your resume. So if you all know, we as recruiters, we use applicant tracking systems. All of us have different experiences using different applicant tracking systems. Whenever you apply into a role officially, right, it comes straight into the applicant tracking system with that particular company, and it comes into HR. Before it even gets to a hiring manager, it comes into HR. If y'all can hear my dog, I'm sorry. For some reason, he thinks barking should be a thing. It shouldn't be, not in this point. But it comes right into HR before it goes to the hiring managers. Normally, LinkedIn is more of an external source, unofficial way of finding candidates than it is kind of like an official way, right? It can be used unofficially or officially. It depends on how you use it. When we're normally relying on the resume, right? Whenever we are using or sending people throughout the applicant tracking system to ultimately be hired into a role. LinkedIn is just a way for, I look at LinkedIn, and everybody's had, please feel free to have a different opinion. LinkedIn, I look at it as a way where it helps me understand who you are if you don't answer me initially from when I need to reach out to you using my applicant tracking system. So your resume applicant tracking system and the information you put into that company profile that you create for yourself, along with your resume and cover letter, if you decide to add one, is a way for me to reach out to you via email or via phone if I need to contact you, right? So then if you don't answer me, I will go to your LinkedIn to see if I can find you. At that point, I don't care what you look like. I just need to know if I can find you. And so if I can't find you, then that's a problem, right? So what I use pictures for is I use pictures to help me understand how active you are on LinkedIn. It helps me understand if you finished your profile, not based on what you look like, but just, do you have a complete profile? It also helps me understand, like I've used LinkedIn pictures too to help me understand your level of engagement. It also helps me understand if you want your company to know that you have a LinkedIn profile to network with other people so that your company doesn't know that you want to leave. There's a different way that I look at LinkedIn when it comes to your picture versus putting a picture on your resume. I don't officially use LinkedIn as a way to say, oh, look what this person looked like. Maybe we can get some diversity. That is not what the purpose of LinkedIn is for. LinkedIn is for networking. Your official resume is for you to actually apply into the position. LinkedIn, though, does help us to understand, once we're sourcing, when we're looking at skill sets, it helps us to understand your skill set before we even reach out to you to determine if we have a position that we think you should apply for. I hope that made sense, because that's how I view LinkedIn, as a way to understand if you have a complete profile versus or if you're going to get back to me if I reach out to you. I've learned that people who don't have pictures and who aren't coupled with your level of activity, I don't know if you're going to respond to me in a timely manner in the way that I need you to, because I may have a position for you that my hiring manager actually asked me to reach out to you, and you didn't respond via email, you didn't answer my voicemails. I have to find you on LinkedIn, and I don't know if you're going to respond there either. So it kind of helps with different ways to source candidates for us. But it does not create unconscious bias, and to me anyway, because LinkedIn is social media. So I just don't look at it that way. I hope that makes sense. It's a very long explanation. Okay, next question. Jira has a really good question. Okay. Next question. Why do some recruiters reach out via LinkedIn for hybrid or in-person roles when it's clearly stated that remote roles are preferred? Is there something they're not seeing on the back end?
I mean, I think for me, I think it would just be for, just to see if you're interested in the position regardless, because we might be delivering information to you that might change your mind. So why not reach out? Why not start a conversation? Or, you might be able to refer someone that is looking for this type of position. So that's why I would still reach out.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know in my experience, sometimes I will reach out to a candidate even if they specify that they prefer remote, because we forget to update our preferences for remote, on-site, and update our profiles. So I personally don't think there's any harm in, if there's a very strong profile, I'll reach out to them, and I think the worst that they could say is no, I'm not interested.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, we'll take this last question and then we will let our panelists go. So last question. For tech or non-tech roles, how effective would you say is sending a brief introduction to the recruiter before the initial interview and a thank you email afterward?
I'll go. I love it. I love that personable feeling that candidates give off. I like when they message me or they follow up with me or send me emails afterwards. And Sheikah, thank you so much for taking the time to interview me. That lets me know this is a good person. Let me see. I might could find something for them later on. I would say I enjoy it. So I don't know if other recruiters do or not, but I think it's nice.
I enjoy it as well because it helps me to it helps me to know how serious you are about getting into the company. So I don't know about the rest of my panelists, but I am not a fan of the phrase "foot in the door." I'm not a fan of that. The reason why I'm not a fan of that, right, is because I understand the foot in the door mindset, but I'm not a fan of it because I don't want you to accidentally say it in your interview and give off the impression to the hiring manager that you're using their position to only get into the company or get into that industry. So when you send like initial interview messages or thank you emails, it helps me to know how serious you are about getting into the company. And it helps me to know how much work I need to do in order to try and repurpose you into another position. I've repurposed many candidates before. And so it helps when if you have that foot in the door mindset, sometimes you can literally stop at one position if you didn't get the job and then be done. When you do that, the thank you email afterward or that initial introductory email before, it helps me understand your level of professionalism and your readiness whenever you're trying to get into the company. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I want to echo that because we want candidates who want to be in our roles. We want candidates who want to work for our clients or our hiring managers. And so if you do those little things like send a note ahead of time, send a thank you note afterwards, we know that you really do want to be there. You are taking this very seriously. And if we've got to narrow down a big list of candidates to send to a hiring manager, maybe they only want to see 3 or 4 people. That's a great way to set yourself apart for almost any role. I love the idea.
And hiring managers aren't going to forget you. Hiring manager, if they really like you, they're not going to forget you for that next position that comes down the pipeline. So sending that thank you, just that small thank you note to the recruiter and having them share that information with the hiring manager and so on, that goes a long way. So I'm going to stop here. I want to say thank you to my panelists for agreeing to be panelists on my Kickback series. It's really important that we bridge the gap between people who are ghosting and people who do not, because not all of us ghost people. So I will let you all go. You all can also stay too, but I'm going to let everybody know that I'm going to keep doing this. So I will probably, I'm going to try. Don't hold it to me, but I'm going to try to do it every other week so that I can introduce you to as many recruiters as possible. Please connect with Aisha, Mark, Miriam, and Nashika. They are here to help. Aisha is in healthcare. Mark is also in healthcare. Miriam is in tech, and Nashika is in tech. And all of these recruiters are amazing recruiters. As you can see, we're going to advocate for y'all. We will not lowball you. We're going to try to get you the most money possible. That makes sense. But before we get in trouble. So
Right.
please understand that we are working and at your, working for you and not against you. And please, please, please leave with this. Please allow your recruiter to be your best friend throughout this process. We completely know that we are not best friends in real life, But if we are your best friend throughout this process, even if you don't get a job that on a position that we are with, I may share you with Aisha. I may share you with Nashika or Mark or Miriam, and they may have a position that is that may fit a little bit more of your skill set than my positions will. So please, 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 when you're building these relationships, come off genuine. Make sure you know your stuff. Make sure you do your research. Make sure you do your research. Please make sure you do your research. And just make sure that before you ask a recruiter a question, that you look on our profile to understand what we recruit for, and then ask the question, because we get that a lot too. So I hope you all found something great in this. I hope you all were able to take great notes. So again, I'm going to continue to add everybody's link into the chat like I've been doing for the last hour. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us and give us grace, because I'm sure that my panelists are going to be bombarded with questions after this. So I hope you all be safe. Have a great rest of your night. And as always, if God is for you, nobody can be against you. So have a good one. Y'all be blessed. Be good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.